Zhou Manage shook his head and stopped his thoughts. At this moment, he realized that this high-tier deity-level advanced-grade chaos human had been looking at him. Just as Zhou Manage was about to say something, he saw the other party suddenly kneel down and respectfully say, "Chaos human. Yingning hopes to follow your majesty and serve your majesty. Please allow me to do so." It was obvious that she was not familiar with this unique way of speaking between rulers and ministers when she said these words, showing that she was still not very familiar with them. "Get up. Tell me first. Why do you want to follow me and become my subordinate?" Zhou Manage didn't agree immediately and questioned instead. He could tell that the other party had a motive for joining him. Even though he had a heaven-defying lord talent like the peaceful times, he was not afraid that the people who joined him would betray him. However, if he knew that a person was approaching him with a purpose, he wouldn't deliberately act dumb. He would definitely ask first, "My lord, I'm the eldest daughter of the current chaotic patriarch and the chaotic high priest, Haze of Chaos. My father was proficient in divination and sacrifice. He divined that in the current Lord of all races competition, there was a chaos human lord who performed very well and was the leader of the lords. He divined that in the current Lord of all races competition, there was a chaos human lord who performed very well and was the leader of the lords. Therefore, my king father sent me here to befriend the lord of the chaos human race with great potential. In other words, you, your majesty. My king father wants me to marry you and become your woman. This way, your relationship with the chaos humans will be the most stable. I hope that your majesty and Yingning will give Yingning this opportunity." When Zhou Manage heard Yingning's words, he looked like he had been struck by lightning. Frankly speaking, he had been in the high continent for quite some time and had come into contact with many women. There were countless women who wanted to climb into his bed. However, Zhou was completely focused on his career and rarely considered matters of the heart. Therefore, even though he had seen many women in all shapes and sizes, he had only had sex with his wife, Leah. Zhou hadn't touched any of the other women, not even Aaliyah and Atli, the elven twins' maids. However, even though he had seen many women, there was really no woman like Yingning who was so straightforward about being his woman. There were all kinds of forests in the world. Zhou Manage sighed in his heart. "Don't you feel wronged?" Zhou Manage thought for a long time before saying this. "My personal partner is nothing compared to racial revival." Furthermore, Yingning looked at Zhou with shining eyes. "Yingning can feel how powerful his majesty is. Your majesty is the strongest among his peers, even stronger than the strongest legendary warrior king of the chaos humans. No, even among all the recorded chaos humans in history. You are undoubtedly powerful. If I can become your majesty's woman, even if I am immediately eaten by the chaos beast, I will never regret it. Even my king father will be proud of me if I can give birth to a child for his majesty and allow our bloodline to be passed down." "Your majesty!" Yingning slammed her fist heavily on her chest and said in a deep voice, "Yingning's soul is only willing to beat for you." Zhou Manage recalled that as an ancient and powerful race, the chaos humans' desire for strength was engraved in their bloodline inheritance after hearing her words. Therefore, Yingning's words could be said to be very sincere and serious. But then again, even though the chaos humans admired strength, once they set a target as their future man, they would never regret it for the rest of their lives. They would not appear after starting a family and admire strength again. Therefore, the married life of the chaos humans was still considered harmonious. Just as Zhou Manage was about to say something, he suddenly sensed something and looked into the distance. 3 figures flew over from afar and arrived in front of Zhou and company in the blink of an eye. One of the god spirits had a fat head and ears. His body was completely black, and his eyes were like 2 dark purple vortexes. As for the other god spirit, it was completely pale. Its surface was covered in mysterious black runes, and an extremely long tail was wagging behind him. As for the last god spirit, it had 9 heads. Each head emitted a different nomological aura. Zhou Manage narrowed his eyes and looked at them. These 3 uninvited guests were 3 true god tiers. Furthermore, they were all at the true God tier intermediate grade. He was not considered weak even among the true God tier. At this moment, they observed at Ing Ning with an expression of venting their anger. Bitch, you really understand how to run. We chased you for more than a dozen worlds before we caught up to you. I didn't expect you to actually come to the high continent. I'd like to see where you can escape to now. The azure-tailed demonic tiger true god, Lai Du, smiled sinisterly. Hurry up and take her down so that we can go back and report. The true god of the Shenju clan, Hauer, frowned slightly. Look, this declining chaotic tribe member seems to have found a helper. One of the nine-headed snake true gods, Sax, who was emitting the aura of the law of fire, said. Could it be her old flame? The other snake head that emitted a dark aura said in a gloomy voice. Let me smell it, huh? He also has the aura of a chaos human. This fellow is also a chaos human. A snake head emitting boundless poisonous gas on the left said in surprise. Oh? Another chaos human? Lai Du was ecstatic. He stared at Zhou Manage and said greedily, What kind of good day is this? We actually encountered 2 chaos humans in a row. But didn't the wanted poster only say that we need to capture a female chaos human? If we take he down, we will definitely be able to obtain more rewards from that lord. Even though Hauer was also very surprised, he was also very calm. However, when he carefully observed Zhou Manage and Zheng Yuanqi's auras and discovered that one of them was at the low-tier deity level intermediate grade, and the other was a legendary tier ordinary human, he was immediately relieved. Such an ant-like character, he could scare them to death with a snap of his fingers. Run! Your Majesty! They are all true God-tier intermediate grade experts. You can't deal with them. I'll stay here for a while. Return to your territory first. As long as you're in your territory, they probably won't dare to attack you casually because of the Supreme Agreement. When Ing Ning saw the 3 true God-tier enemies coming over, her face suddenly turned pale. However, he could no longer care about his own safety. He immediately turned his head and shouted at Zhou Manage. In his eyes, this king of the blazing sun was already the wish for the chaos humans to restore their former glory. He could be captured by the other party, or even die at the other party's hands. However, nothing could happen to the king of the blazing sun otherwise. If anything happened to the king of the blazing sun, even if he survived, he would rue it for the rest of his life. Facing Ing Ning's words, Zhang Yuanqi, who was beside Zhou Manage, was carefree and not nervous at all. As His Majesty's closest and most trusted minister, he naturally knew His Majesty's abilities. He knew that nothing would happen to him even if he faced 3 enemies at the true God tier level. Zhou Manage frowned slightly. Seriously, fighting is Zhou Fight's job. I'm in management. Zhou Manage muttered. The clones had inherited Zhou's different personalities. If Zhou Fight was cold and good at fighting, Zhou Manage liked peace and dealt with political matters. He didn't like to fight. However, in order to resolve the current situation, he still drew the regal sage Dao sword at his waist. Even though he didn't like fighting, it didn't mean that he wasn't good at it. Seeing this scene, Ing Ning couldn't help but feel anxious. She had already heard many legends about this king of the blazing sun on the way here. She had even heard that king of the blazing sun had once defeated a true god tier as a legendary tier. After that, he had advanced to a low-level true god tier and even killed several true god tier legends. However, as the saying went, what one heard was false and what one saw was true. She actually didn't really believe it. As a chaos human with a deep foundation, he knew the difference between a true god level and a non-true god tier existence, even though he had declined. How could it be possible for the 2 of them to defeat each other? Furthermore, even if the legend of the king of the blazing sun killing several true god tiers was true, now was not the time. These were 3 powerful true god tier intermediate grade experts. He wasn't the true god tier elementary grade expert that king of the blazing sun had defeated in the past. There was no comparison between the 2 at all. At the same time, when Lai Du and the other true god tiers of the people of foreign races saw Zhou Manage draw his sword, they immediately sneered. They couldn't be bothered to waste their breath and were about to deal with this low-tier deity-level intermediate-grade god spirit. However, in the next second, a terrifying pressure erupted from Zhou Manag's body and swept in all directions in an instant. In the blink of an eye, the area within a radius of 50,000 kilometers seemed to have been stopped by time, and it became silent. At this moment, everything in the world seemed to have lost its luster. Only Zhou Manage had become the only god spirit in the world. Yingning, Lai Du, Hauer and Sachs looked at Zhou Manage in shock, as if they were looking at the only true god tier in the world, as though they were all false gods. You're clearly at the low-tier deity level intermediate grade, but you suddenly advanced to the true god tier intermediate grade. Sachs gritted his teeth and looked at Zhou Manage. You're the common people's regal? The other two true god tiers' expressions changed. They had naturally heard of the common people's regal. That was a ruthless person who had killed several true god tiers. Common people's regal, Hauer hurriedly shouted. We are working for a high-level bloodline race. Are you sure you want to offend us and the high-level bloodline race behind us for a chaos human prisoner? Hand this chaos human woman over to us. We can pretend that this never happened. So what if it's a high-level bloodline race? Zhou Manage held the regal sage Dao sword in his hand and pointed the tip of the sword at the three true god tiers of the people of foreign races. He said calmly, I only know that the woman you're chasing is my subject. You arrest my subjects in front of me. Do you think I'm an incompetent person? You arrest my subjects in front of me. Do you think I'm an incompetent person? Zhou Manage said calmly. Let them come to the high continent to talk to me. Let's see if I'll give them face. As soon as these words were spoken, Zhang Yuanqi looked at Zhou Manage with reverence. Yingning looked at Zhou Manage with infatuation. She would have wanted to give herself to him immediately if it wasn't because the situation was special. As for Lai Du and the other two true god tier, their expressions turned ugly. They never expected that even though they had already made it clear that they had the support of a high-level bloodline race, this king of the blazing sun still didn't know what was good for him. Did he really think that he was invincible? Common people's regal. Sachs' tone was cold as he looked at Zhou Manage with a pair of cold eyes. I've heard of the regal's reputation. I really want to see what you're capable of. Zhou Manage didn't say anything. He just waved his hand. Such a contemptuous gesture immediately enraged the three true god tiers. However, at their level, the angrier they were, the calmer they became. Let me try the methods of a regal. Lai Du clasped his hands together. Boom! A layer of dark purple space extended out from behind him. In the blink of an eye, it enveloped an area of 1,000,000 kilometers, making this place a world of its own. It also became the battlefield for the four true god tiers. Unfortunately, Yingning and Zhang Yuanqi were also dragged into it. When Zhou Manage saw this, he pulled them and the surrounding innocent life forms into his inner world to prevent them from being undeserved. How kind! As expected of the common people's regal bestowed by the supreme will. Hauer mocked. At this moment, Lai Du had already flown into the sky and suddenly opened its mouth at Zhou Manage. Boom! Sharp spatial blades shot towards Zhou Manage like endless waves. Even a true god tier wouldn't dare to face such a powerful spatial blade head-on. However, Zhou Manage's expression was calm. He raised his hand and pushed. In the next second, the palm phantom he pushed out quickly expanded to more than 50,000 kilometers in size. Half of the spatial world was blocked by his palm. At this moment, his palm seemed to have transformed into a vast starry sky, with countless star divine kingdoms hanging high in it. Its common people's regal's lord nomological ultimate technique, myriad methods star palm. Hauer and Sachs' expressions changed again. Now, common people's regal's name resounded throughout the myriad worlds. Therefore, much of his information was widely circulated among the upper echelons of the myriad races and some super experts. And among them, the most famous was the nomological skill he used to increase his strength, King. The second was naturally the nomological skill he used to defeat many true gods, myriad methods star palm. They didn't anticipate it either. It was fine if this common people's regal didn't move, but once he moved, it was actually his ultimate move. Lai Du's expression was also very serious. Even though the common people's regal used his own ultimate technique, it wasn't the spatial law skill he used, sky-splitting infinite slash, the same? Next, it would depend on the true strength of both sides. However, what happened next made Lai Du despair. After the nomological attacks of both sides collided, Zhou Managed's myriad methods star palm actually easily devoured Lai Du's heaven-splitting limitless slash with absolute advantage. Then, it devoured Lai Du at an unrestrained speed. No. Lai Du's confront was filled with fear. He turned around and wanted to escape, but he realized that the space around him was similar to a swamp, making he unable to move. Therefore, he could only watch as the vast myriad methods star palm rapidly approached him, until it completely devoured him. This, Hauer and Sachs' expressions changed. They looked at Zhou Manage and were about to say something when they saw Zhou Manage slap them again without hesitation. No! Hauer and Sachs were true god-tiers who had become true gods by walking the path of the wind nomological laws, while the other was true god-tiers who had become true gods by walking the path of the fusion of 9 nomological laws. However, in the confront of Zhou Managed's shocking palm, they felt like ants. Not merely were they unable to escape, they could not also think of resisting. It was as if any resistance was useless under this palm. I'm afraid merely a true god-tier advanced grade can barely escape this palm. Common people's regal already has the power of a top true god tier. We shouldn't have provoked such a peerless true god tier. This thought flashed through the minds of the two deities before they were reduced to ashes by the two palms. Only a vast number of spoils of war that emitted various colors were left. They were taken away by Zhou Manage and stored in the king's treasure vault. The world quietened down after 3 palm strikes. Ying Ning looked at the calm Zhou Manage in a daze, as if he had not done anything. What had just happened? Where are the 3 true god tiers of the people of foreign races? Why did they disappear after 3 strikes? Are you swatting a fly here? Zhang Yuanqi, who was beside Zhou Manage, was also shocked when he saw that His Majesty had easily killed 3 true god tiers of the people of foreign races. He knew that His Majesty could deal with the 3 true god tiers of the people of foreign races, but he did not expect it to be resolved so easily. His Majesty's strength had increased again. Zhang Yuanqi lamented and thought happily. At this moment, as the person involved, Zhou Manage looked unsurprised by what he had done. His strength had reached true god tier intermediate grade after he used King to increase his strength. On this basis, using a ridiculously powerful Lord Law skill like the Myriad Method Star Palm would naturally allow his combat strength to reach the level of a true God tier advanced grade. In addition, the true God tier divine artifacts enhanced his strength, as well as other enhancements on him. Few true God tier cultivators were his match as long as the Master God tier did not appear. It was naturally easy for him to defeat 3 true God tier intermediate grade experts with 3 palm strikes. Zhou Manage looked at Ying Ning. This king allows you to join this king's blazing sun kingdom. As for the Chaos humans, I will naturally take the time to make a trip to the Chaos ruins when I feel that I have enough ability. Calm down, he said. Thank you, Your Majesty. Ying Ning was moved to tears. Zhou Manage nodded, and the 3 of them returned to the blazing sun kingdom. On the way back, Zhou Manage also checked the spoils of war of the 3 true god tiers of the people of foreign races. However, because they did not have any true god tier divine artifacts on them, they naturally did not drop any Master God divine artifacts. They only left 18 true god tier divine artifacts and some true god tier and Master God tier materials for Zhou. Other than that, the most precious items were the 3 Master God tier intermediate grade hero inheritance manuals and the 3 Book of the God Spirit manuals dropped by the true God tiers of the people of foreign races. Zhou put it away solemnly, preparing to reward the talents he valued or the subordinates and subjects with Master God tier level potential in the future. Time passed quickly. Zhou put it away solemnly, preparing to reward the talents he valued or the subordinates and subjects with Master God tier level potential in the future. At this moment, Zhou Fight, who was billions of kilometers away from the blazing Sun Kingdom, was leading his army towards the territory of a people of foreign race called the Demon Flood Dragon Sacred Sea. The Demon Flood Dragon Sacred Sea was the territory of a race called the Demon Flood Dragon Clan. Previously, they had also participated in preventing the humans from retreating to the primordial world's people of foreign races. Furthermore, they did not choose to surrender. That was why they were chosen by Zhou Fight as the targets of today's extermination. The Demon Flood Dragon race, an amphibious race. This race has always had friction with the human race. They often use the river to swim to the human territory and hide in the rivers, lakes, and seas inside the human territory to stir up trouble. The Demon Flood Dragon race likes to hide under the river the most. When the humans are fishing above the river and sea, they will suddenly appear and overturn the boats before eating the humans who fall into the water. Even water elemental superhumans of the human race can't defeat the superhumans of the Demon Flood Dragon race underwater since it is their home ground. Therefore, the Demon Flood Dragon race has always been the enemy of the people of foreign races that ordinary humans hate and fear the most. In the Demon Flood Dragon race's civilization, there is currently only one unified Demon Flood Dragon race empire on the High Continent. It's called the Holy Flood Dragon Empire. In addition to having an extraordinary body system unique to their race, the Holy Flood Dragon Empire has developed a powerful marine civilization that belongs exclusively to their race. It's called the Demon Flood Dragon Sea Ship Civilization. Under the Demon Flood Dragon Sea Ship Civilization, their naval military strength can be ranked in the top 1,000 among all the people of foreign races with empire-level lords. Zhou Fight was deep in thought. Currently, his territory has developed in all aspects except for the development in the oceans. The Blazing Sun Kingdom had risen from the desert territory and had never come into contact with that. Even though he later took over the territories of the three human empires, most of these territories were land territories. Only a very small portion was inland lakes. There was no chance of developing the military strength of the sea. His Blazing Sun Kingdom's only fleet in the ocean was inherited from the three former human empires. There were only more than 1 million kingdom-level warships, and they were extremely ordinary. Even among the kingdom-level lord factions, they could only be considered ordinary, let alone among the kingdom-level lord factions. It could be seen that the Yellow Emperor and company didn't want to invest too much effort in this aspect back then. If it was an ordinary kingdom-level lord faction, they probably wouldn't even have the intention to attack such an enemy. The environment on the battlefield is too disadvantaged after all. It's completely unsuitable for our army to fight. The army under my command has no expertise in fighting on the sea. With the same number of soldiers, it will probably be very difficult for my soldiers to gain an superiority in war. Instead, we will suffer heavy losses. Nonetheless, I have too many soldiers. Zhou Fight chuckled. He now had a total of 600 billion troops under him. What kind of concept was this? According to the intelligence of the Heavenly Map Army, there were only about 6 billion Demon Flood Dragon race soldiers left. This was because they only fought underwater. When Zhou's soldiers stopped them back then, they could not cause too many casualties. Otherwise, this number would only increase. Zhou had more than 100 times more soldiers than them. Furthermore, they were all elites of the empire-level soldier type. With so many soldiers, it would not be long before the sea level of the Demon Flood Dragon Sacred Sea rose by a few centimeters if every soldier spat into the sea. If they were to cast spells on their Demon Flood Dragon Sacred Sea, they would only need a short day to blast the entire Demon Flood Dragon Sacred Sea into a depression without a single drop of water. The Demon Flood Dragon clan is nothing to worry about. Let's hope that they know their salt. Zhou Fight considered to himself. Otherwise, he could only avenge the humans who had died in the Demon Flood Dragon race's mouths in the past. I'm such a saint, so nice to even enemies. Zhou Fight thought. That's not right. This is clearly instructions from the main body. I'm just carrying out the main body's orders. I'm actually just a ruthless tool of genocide. Zhou Fight could not help but laugh. Then, with a thought, a list appeared in front of him. It was the faction points ranking. First place, Human, Lord of the Blazing Sun, 7.79 billion faction points. Second place, Original Spirit Race, True Lord, 5,196,000,000 faction points. Third place, Shepherd's God Race, Heaven Chasing Lord, 4,255,000,000 faction points. Fourth place, Myriad Spirit Race, Spiritual Venerable Lord, 4,112,000,000 faction points. Fourth place, Chaos Gods Race, Great One Lord, 4,028,000,000 faction points. Finally, there's a gap. A smile appeared on Jojo's face. Due to the increase in strength, they had many targets for destroying through the Eye of the Heaven's anger today. In the past, they could only eliminate about 30 Eye of the Heaven's anger targets in a morning. Today, it had doubled to 60. And because of that, they had obtained a total of 2,350,000,000 faction points from the target of the Eye of the Heaven's anger. I still can't be careless. Continue with my original goal and increase the gap between me and the second place to more than 1,000,000,000 faction points. Zhou Fight considered to himself. Today was the 17th day of the King of 10,000 Kings event. The event was more than halfway through. The remaining 13 days weren't long, but it wasn't short either. It should allow him to widen the gap between him and the original spirit race by 10 billion points. At this moment, he felt the galaxy leader stop. Your Majesty, we've arrived at our destination, the Demon Flood Dragon's Sacred Sea. When Yu's soft tone sounded, Zhou Fight nodded. Then, he stood up and moved towards the door of the spaceship. Zhou Fight flew out of the spaceship and floated above the clouds, looking down at the Demon Flood Dragon's Sacred Sea. Below him was an endless dark purple sea. It looked strangely beautiful. Above the sea was a large number of strange purple sea buildings built by the Demon Flood Dragon race. According to the information, those were marine military buildings and some resource development buildings established by the Demon Flood Dragon race. He stared at the bottom of the Demon Flood Dragon's Sacred Sea. Soon, he could clearly see that 10,000 meters below the Demon Flood Dragon's Sacred Sea were large clusters of buildings with unique civilization styles. They were built on the bottom of the sea, and there were many types of buildings. There were small subject buildings and tall and majestic civilization buildings. In these buildings, there were trillions of Demon Flood Dragon clan members living and wandering. Most of them were wearing armor. Even the ordinary subjects were the same. Not only that, Zhou Fight also discovered that the buildings around the Demon Flood Dragon clan had also been temporarily strengthened and many war weapons had been added. Is this preparation for us? It seems that they have a premonition that we are coming, Zhou Fight thought to himself. However, his expression was very calm. So what if they had a premonition? The outcome of the war will not change. Bai Yun, he said. Yes, Your Majesty. Bai Yun immediately flew in front of Zhou Fight and said respectfully, let's declare war. As usual, after dispersing the troops, we'll give them one last chance to surrender. Zhou Fight said, Yes, Your Majesty. Bai Yun nodded solemnly. Then, he immediately flew high in the sky, high above the 1,000 galaxy ships. All soldiers, listen to my orders, Legion Commander. Leave Galaxy immediately and set up the troop arrangement here. Bai Yun shouted. Yes, sir. An earth-shattering roar came from all the galaxy. Then, a large number of soldiers surged out of each galaxy like a river and swiftly began to form a troop arrangement in the sky. Soon, more than 60 billion soldiers stood neatly under the troop arrangement of all the generals and god spirits. The huge sky was completely blocked by the soldiers at this moment. There was no sunlight at all. They could only see the magic power light emitted by the soldiers and the divine power light emitted by the god spirits. Other than that, they had also set up more than 3,000 god spirit level military formations. These military formations could be said to have everything from low-tier deity level advanced grade to high-tier deity level advanced grade. In addition to the small god Sura Myriad Spirit Army formation and Soldier God Army, there was also the high-tier deity advanced grade Supreme Fire God Army, high-tier deity elementary grade Hellfire King Army, mid-tier deity advanced grade Moon Worship Spirit Army, mid-tier deity intermediate grade Moon God Descends. The other military formations were captured from the Fire Cry human race and the Moon Demon race. After practicing in the time world for a period of time, the soldiers mastered all the formations of the people of foreign races and realized them on the current battlefield. This shocking scene immediately attracted the attention of the Demon Flood Dragon race below the Demon Flood Dragon Sacred Sea. When the Demon Flood Dragon race members saw these 600 billion soldiers, many of them were instantly frightened out of their wits. They hurriedly returned to report to the higher-ups of the Demon Flood Dragon race. Soon, some legendary tier, God Spirit, and even true God tier experts of the Demon Flood Dragon race appeared on the surface of the sea. When they saw the 600 billion soldiers, the 3,000-odd spirits of the military formation that exuded the aura of God spirits, and at least 3 powerhouses with the aura of true God tier, their faces instantly turned extremely ugly and terrified. Didn't they say that the Blazing Sun Kingdom only has 100 billion soldiers? This is a fucking 100 billion soldiers? The Demon Flood Dragon race true God. Karoo cursed angrily. What do we do now? Another true god of the Demon Flood Dragon race, Hielos, asked. I'll go up and stall for a while. Quickly contact the Shadow race and tell them that the Common People's Regal has already led an army to our Demon Flood Dragon race's territory. As for the military strength, I'll tell you the truth. Karoo gritted his teeth. He wanted to say the number of fake soldiers and trick them into coming over. However, he was also afraid that the other party would misjudge the strength of the Common People's Regal after hearing about the number of soldiers and the number of God spirits. Then, he would not bring enough troops over and would be wiped out. Then this lie would be meaningless. In that case, it was naturally best to tell the truth. But what if the other party doesn't come over after hearing about the military strength? With Common People's Regal strength, I'm afraid even the Shadow race wouldn't dare to provoke him easily, right? Hielos asked hesitantly. The other party had brought such a terrifying army over. Even the Shadow clan would probably hesitate when facing such an enemy, right? They will definitely come. And they'll come with everything they have, Karoo uttered firmly. The Common People's Regal sees us as enemies and can't wait to exterminate all of us. This is already something that all living beings in the Supreme Continent know. Do you think the Shadow Clan doesn't know? They only want us to be their shield for the time being and give them time to prepare to deal with Common People's Regal in the future. But there's no time to prepare them now. In such a short period of time, Common People's Regal strength has developed to such a terrifying extent. If we give the Common People's Regal more time to develop, let alone the Shadow tribe, even the people of Foreign Race Alliance led by Uriel might not be able to deal with this Common People's Regal. The Shadow clan is running out of time. As long as there's nothing wrong with their heads, they will know that they have to get rid of the Common People's Regal before he becomes stronger. Otherwise, they will definitely lose in the end. Therefore, after you contact the Shadow tribe, not only do you have to tell them the truth about Common People's Regal strength, it's even better to exaggerate the threat of Common People's Regal and let them realize the seriousness of the problem. This way, the Shadow tribe will realize the threat of the Common People's Regal and help us with all their might. I understand. Hielos nodded. Then, he returned to the base of the Sacred Sea and arrived in front of the spatial teleportation array without hesitation. Activate the teleportation array. I want to go to the Shadow Sacred Hall. Hielos instructed the soldiers guarding the spatial teleportation array. Your Excellency, the space has been sealed by an unknown force, so the spatial teleportation array can't be used for the time being. The soldier uttered respectfully. Hielos frowned slightly. This Common People's Regal's preparations were quite comprehensive. You can't communicate? Yes, Your Excellency. Our communication signals in the entire Demon Flood Dragon Sacred Sea have been blocked. The other party's technology level far exceeds ours. Hielos' expression turned ugly. Was this Common People's Regal really a lord who had just risen to power? Why had they developed so quickly? Not only did they already have so many soldiers, god spirits, and god spirit level military formations, but even the Machina race's civilization system like technology had developed so well. Can the Myriad Water Mirror Palace be used normally? Hielos asked. The Myriad Water Mirror Palace is temporarily unaffected. The soldier replied. Take me there. Hielos heaved a sigh of relief and said, "Yes, Your Excellency. Please follow me." Hielos nodded and followed his subordinates to the Myriad Water Mirror Palace. The Myriad Water Mirror Palace looked like a resplendent white jade crystal palace from afar. Upon closer inspection, one would discover that the crystal palace was made of legendary tier crystal spirit jade. After walking in, one would discover rows and rows of water mirrors erected in this magnificent palace. The front of each water mirror displayed a unique scene of the foreign waters. This was the unique ability of the demon flood dragon races building Myriad Water Mirror Palace. It could use the water mirror to communicate with any place with water that was marked by the Palace of Water Mirrors. Life forms could travel between the two water regions that were billions of kilometers apart through the water mirror. It was equivalent to a water attribute teleportation array. It was different from the spatial attribute. Therefore, the methods that could stop spatial teleportation were useless against the Myriad Water Mirror Palace. Only treasures that countered the water attribute could affect the Myriad Water Mirror Palace. Hielos walked to the water mirror that led to the Shadow King city. He stepped into it and disappeared without hesitation. On the Demon Flood Dragon Sacred Sea, at this moment, Bayun had already sent someone to announce the contents of the surrender letter. After Karoo heard this, his expression immediately turned solemn. Then, he took the initiative to fly into the sky and stopped at an appropriate distance from the Blazing Sun Kingdom soldiers. "I am the true god of the Demon Flood Dragon race, Karoo. I request to see your lord, Your Excellency the common people's regal." "Oh!" Zhou Feit's calm voice came from the sky. "Why are you looking for me? Are you prepared to accept our persuasion?" "Your Excellency common people's regal." Karoo braced himself and said, "I think there's still room for negotiation between our two races. Why must we go to the point where we're at war today? Once the war starts, we don't know how many casualties there will be on both sides. We have to be careful. Why bother?" Zhou Feit said softly, but his voice was extremely cold. "Back then, when you sent your clansmen to infiltrate our human territory and kill and devour us, why didn't you think so? Back then, when we humans wanted to retreat to the primordial world, why didn't you think so when you joined the enemy and stopped us from retreating to the primordial world? Why didn't you think so when we sent out the surrender letter? Now that we've come knocking on your door, you come out and say such things, hoping we'll agree. What is wrong? Is this king easy to talk to?" Towards the end, Zhou Feit's voice was filled with coldness. "Wait, that's not what I meant. I meant," Karoo hurriedly said. But at this moment, Zhou Feit spoke again. "Are you stalling for time? Let me think. You should be waiting for your ally, the Shadow Race, to save your Demon Flood Dragon race, right? Then why don't you think about why this king knew that you were connected to the Shadow Race, but still came here to destroy your clan?" Karoo's body trembled when he heard that. "Bayun, it seems that they are unwilling to surrender. Do it. Before the Shadow Race's reinforcements arrive, exterminate all the demonic Abyss tribe members who are unwilling to surrender. Then we'll take care of our guests. They were one of the 5 main people of foreign races that stopped the humans from retreating to the primordial world. We have to treat them well," Zhou Feit ordered. "Yes, Your Majesty," Bayun said respectfully and then ordered loudly, "All forbidden mages, listen to my orders and cast a forbidden spell on the Demon Flood Dragon Sacred Sea until you kill all the Demon Flood Dragons who are unwilling to surrender. All Yellow Talisman Dao soldiers, listen to my orders. Protect our forbidden mage and kill all enemies who dare to invade or want to escape." Yes, more than 200 billion forbidden mages began to chant forbidden spells and cast them at the Demon Flood Dragon Sacred Sea below, accompanied by the furious roars of billions of soldiers. From the Black Iron Tier Forbidden Spell, Wind and Fire overturning the heavens, to the low-tier deity level Forbidden Spell, World Destruction Fall. They were all very powerful. Even the weakest Black Iron Tier Forbidden Spell was comparable to a Diamond Tier spell. A forbidden spell? No, it was a forbidden curse. This was the power of forbidden spells. All kinds of forbidden spells descended from the sky in the blink of an eye and landed in the Demon Flood Dragon Sacred Sea. causing a huge explosion and extremely widespread pollution inside and outside the sea. After the explosion dissipated, Karoo and the other members of the Demon Flood Dragon clan were shocked to discover that the sea level of the Demon Flood Dragon Sacred Sea had actually fallen by more than 10 meters under the first round of forbidden spells of the Blazing Sun Kingdom's army. Could a true god be secretly attacking? Otherwise, even if their Blazing Sun Kingdom has a lot of people, they shouldn't be able to unleash such power in one round, Karoo said in shock. No true god tiers attacked. It was all these soldiers who attacked. At most, there were a few low-level god spirits mixed in. Another true god tier of the Demon Flood Dragon race stared at the Blazing Sun Kingdom army in the sky with his purple compound eyes. His expression was very ugly. The reason why these humans can release such powerful attacks seems to exist because they are all Imperial-level soldiers. Moreover, they are mage-type soldiers that can unleash extremely powerful attacks. Under the attack of these hundreds of billions of Empire-level soldier types, even us true god tiers have to temporarily avoid them. What? Karoo was even more shocked. He looked at the orderly formation of Blazing Sun Kingdom soldiers in the sky with a look of disbelief. They're all Empire-level soldier types? How is this possible? Even though that was what he asked, he was almost certain that what the other party said was true. This was because the other party was a true god expert who was extremely good at observation and summary. Even one of his law skills was a nomological ability that assisted in observing the other party's background. The facts he observed generally couldn't exist wrong. Then what should we do? Could it exist that we can only watch as the other party uses such a method to kill our demonic Flood Dragon clan's clansmen? Dickens, you're the supreme wise man of our Demon Flood Dragon clan. You must have thought of a solution, right? Karoo stared at him and asked. Dickens looked at Karoo for a long time and finally nodded. I did contemplate of a way. What is that? Surrender. Dickens spoken calmly. Surrender? Do you realize what you're talking about? You're telling me that you want to surrender at a time like this? Hielos just went to the Shadow Race to find help, and you want to surrender now? Karoo spoken with an ugly expression. The Shadow Race won't come. Hielos won't arrive back either. Dickens spoken calmly. Why? Karoo was stunned. Because the Shadow Race can't defeat the current common people's regal in a one-on-one situation. As a diplomat, I've visited the upper echelons of the Shadow Race to comprehend their personalities and thoughts. After hearing the news from Hielos, they definitely won't act rashly. Instead, they will gather all the helpers they can. With full confidence, they will carry out a decisive battle against the Blazing Sun Kingdom and eliminate it in one fell swoop. And the sacrifice of our Demon Flood Dragon clan will only become a reason to start a war with the Blazing Sun Kingdom. As for Hielos, Dickens chuckled. That guy is even more afraid of death than me. In addition, the Shadow Race won't let this true god tier off either. I guess he has probably become the worshipper of the Shadow Race's true god tier by now. Karoo felt as if he had fallen into an ice cave. I see. Is that why you want to surrender? Karoo lowered his head and said in a low voice. That's right. Dickens chuckled and looked at the soldiers of the Blazing Sun Kingdom in the sky and the majestic figure higher up. I can no longer wait for the Shadow Race. If I don't surrender now, I will definitely die in the hands of the true gods of the Blazing Sun Kingdom. I don't have any other choice. I see. What a pity. Karoo's voice was calm a second ago, but in the next second, it suddenly became fierce. He suddenly stretched out the sharp claws of the Flood Dragon and grabbed Dickens's heart. This claw was exerted with all its might and even contained the power of laws. However, when he penetrated the other party's heart, his expression turned ugly again. This was because he felt that he had grabbed nothing. He looked at Dickens. Dickens's body, which had been clawed through his heart, suddenly became transparent. Immediately after, his body turned into a pool of water and fell into the sea below, disappearing quickly. Karoo suddenly looked up at the sky. His gaze passed through the soldiers of the Blazing Sun Kingdom and looked at the highest point. Then, His expression turned even uglier. Dickens knelt on one knee in front of the human lord and said respectfully, "Greetings, your majesty. I'm the true god of raging waves and vortex, Dickens. Welcome to the blazing sun kingdom." The human lord sat on a throne that emitted four colors of light and smiled. "Dickens!" Carew roared at the sky. The hatred and anger in his voice even exceeded his hatred and anger towards the blazing sun kingdom. At this moment, his expression suddenly changed as he looked down. The seawater kept surging in the sea below. A large amount of dark purple demon flood dragon blood floated up from the depths of the sea, covering the surface of the sea with large amounts of dark purple demon flood dragon blood. Carew hurriedly looked into the depths of the sea, at the sea city territory of the demon flood dragon race. In the demon flood dragon race's city territory, trillions of demon flood dragon race members were actually fighting internally. All of them were fighting extremely bloody, and every move they made wanted to kill the other party. When Carew saw this scene, he immediately thought of another legendary about the common people's regal. The legendary common people's regal was born a lord of war. He had unparalleled talent and charm in war. Most of them would want to surrender. They would even suddenly turn against him in war and slash their weapons at their former comrades. As long as he fought an enemy, most of them would have the mentality of surrendering. They would even suddenly turn against him in war and slash their weapons at their former comrades. However, even so, he had gotten the psychic masters in the race to collectively cast a psychic protection spell on the demon flood dragon race soldiers to prevent such a thing from happening. However, he never expected that even though he had made preparations in advance, his preparations were still useless. What he feared happened. Damn it! Carew couldn't care less about the blazing sun kingdom army in the sky and hurriedly flew down to the sea. A few minutes ago, just as more than 200 billion forbidden mages collectively released forbidden curses at the demon flood dragon's sacred sea, Zoophyte also released the 10,000 spirit saints lord talent immediately. An invisible fluctuation covered the entire demon flood dragon sacred sea in the blink of an eye. When Zoophyte saw the scene, he could not help but click his tongue. It had to be known that the entire demon flood dragon sacred sea was already comparable to the domain of the human race. It had more than 7,000 trillion square kilometers of territory, which was about the size of the sun surrounding Earth. Such a large area was actually covered by the 10,000 spirit saint. The mythical tier lord talent was indeed abnormal. But I like it. Only then did he look at the text prompt triggered by the lord talent. Prompt: you have activated your mythical tier, unique lord talent. 10,000 spirit saint. All spirits see you as a supreme saint and long to follow you. Lord talent notification 1. There are approximately 621 trillion ordinary demon flood dragon race members. 2,035,697,896 black iron tier demon flood dragon race soldiers. 525,607,805 green bronze tier demon flood dragon race soldiers. 312,169,630 white silver tier demon flood dragon race soldiers. 122,529,680 yellow gold tier demon flood dragon race soldiers. 30,417,960 white platinum tier demon flood dragon race soldiers. 10,087,805 diamond tier demon flood dragon race soldiers. 5,029,608 extraordinary tier demon flood dragon race soldiers. 2,052,500 epic tier demon flood dragon race soldiers. 322,050 legendary tier demon flood dragon race soldiers. 12 low-tier deity-level demon flood dragon race god spirits. 5 mid-tier deity-level demon flood dragon race god spirits. 2 high-tier deity-level demon flood dragon race god spirits broke away from their lords and became your loyal followers. Lord talent notification 2. You have obtained a spellcaster Lovis, legendary tier advanced grade. Zoophyte gazed at the 10,000 spirit saints text notification, and a smile appeared on his face again. As expected of the only mythical tier 10,000 spirit saint. Just the ordinary participants of the demon flood dragon race had directly induced an insight defection of more than 621 trillion. Even the demon flood dragon soldiers with extraordinary tier powers had been incited by him to join Insight defection. There were 3,043,914,934 of them. Even though this number was not much for the total military strength of the Blazing Sun Kingdom, these were all troops formed from combat power, and they had a promising future. The thing that made him the happiest was that the 10,000 Spirit Saint had returned with 19 God Spirits who had instigated Insight defection. Currently, the military strength under his command, if counted as the military strength of the Star Alliance, had already reached 620 billion. The number of God Spirits had already reached 651. Not bad, not bad. Zhou Fight nodded in satisfaction. At this moment, a demon flood dragon race God Spirit flew up from below. After Geralt stopped it and inspected it, he brought it safely to Zhou Fight. Your Majesty, this true god tier of the demon flood dragon race is called Dickens. He has already left the Holy Flood Dragon Empire and wants to join our Blazing Sun Kingdom, Geralt said respectfully. After hearing Geralt's words, Dickens knelt on one knee in front of Zhou Fight and said respectfully, True God of raging waves and vortex, Dickens greets your Majesty. When Zhou Fight heard the notification of the other party joining the Blazing Sun Kingdom, he nodded slightly and said, Welcome to the Blazing Sun Kingdom. I have some information about the Demon Flood Dragon race and the Shadow race that I want to report to your Majesty. Dickens immediately uttered again. Tell me. Zhou Fight gazed at him. This was an act of loyalty, but he was not surprised. Instead, he admired it very much. Dickens seems to be a smart deserter. Yes. Upon hearing this, Dickens immediately told Zhou Fight everything he knew. At the same time, under the joint attack of the 10,000 Spirit Saint and more than 200 billion forbidden mages, the demon flood dragon race quickly fell into a disadvantage on the battlefield. A few true god tiers of the demon flood dragon race wanted to make a move to turn the tide, but under the counterattacks of Geralt, Kika, true god Shenghua, and the other true god tiers, their attacks quickly became meaningless. They even fell into a life-and-death crisis. When Karoo saw this scene, he instantly became desperate. At this moment, he had already received news from Hielos. The other party uttered in a very guilty tone that the Shadow race no longer planned to send troops to support the Demon Flood Dragon race. Furthermore, he had already joined the Shadow race and became a true god of the Shadow race. Everything was as Dickens had expected. The Demon Flood Dragon race has lost. Karoo had already seen the outcome of this combat even though the war was not over yet. At this moment, the advantage on the battlefield had completely leaned towards the Blazing Sun Kingdom. The forbidden mages who had fought for the first time displayed their incomparably terrifying battlefield destructive power as soon as they appeared, causing all the members of the Demon Flood Dragon clan and the people of foreign races who were watching the battle in secret to tremble in fear. In particular, the unlimited supply of mental recovery potions and energy recovery potions made forbidden mages, who had instinctively only used forbidden spells once, become forbidden-level machine guns. This made the combat strength of an Empire-level soldier type like the Forbidden Mage almost catch up to the combat strength of a Divine Kingdom soldier type. We have to reevaluate the Lord's power of the common people's regal. Not only is he extremely powerful, even the soldiers under him are not something ordinary soldiers can compare to. The 600 billion troops of the common people's regal are comparable to the trillions of kingdom-level soldier types of other lord factions. This is too shocking. How did the common people's regal develop? How did they silently accumulate such a shocking military force? The various factions that were secretly watching the battle were shocked by Zhou's 600 billion soldiers. Compared to that, even the newly promoted true god of the Blazing Sun Kingdom seemed to have become inconspicuous. After an unknown period of time, the sound of the forbidden spell in the sky above the Demon Flood Dragon Sacred Sea gradually calmed down. When Zhou Fight looked down again, he saw that the entire Demon Flood Dragon Sacred Sea had become calm. In fact, he could sense that there seemed to be no life form in the Demon Flood Dragon Sacred Sea. Only the countless corpses of the Demon Flood Dragon race floating in the sea and the depths of the sea were left, proving the horror of the forbidden spell. Your Majesty, the members of the Devil Flood Dragon clan have disappeared. Legion Commander Wu is currently leading the soldiers of the Heavenly Map Army to search for traces of these hidden Demon Flood Dragon clan members. A solemn-looking general flew up and reported to Zhou Fight. Zhou Fight narrowed his eyes slightly. Disappeared? Could all the members of the Demon Flood Dragon clan have been wiped out by the Forbidden Mage? No, impossible. Even though the consecutive attacks of the forbidden spells in the past few hours had killed most of the demonic Flood Dragon clan members who were unwilling to surrender, it was definitely not to the extent of exterminating all the demonic Flood Dragon clan members. You have some tricks up your sleeve. It's finally getting a little challenging. Zhou Fight chuckled. The current accident didn't make he feel defeated. Instead, it piqued his interest. If a race did not have mysterious means to protect themselves, they would not have survived until today. As long as he destroyed them, their methods would fall into his hands in a higher form. This was the confidence of the King of Loots. Just as he was about to get up and do something, he saw Dickens, who had just surrendered, step forward. Your Majesty, I know where these Demon Flood Dragon race members are hiding, he said calmly. Tell me about it. Zhou Fight was in no hurry to take action even though he already had a rough solution in mind. Your Majesty, the reason why these hundreds of trillions of Flame Clan members suddenly disappeared is because of the construction effect of a building of the Demon Flood Dragon race called the Water God Tower. The effect of this building is that it can transform all the members of the Demon Flood Dragon clan into the water of the sea and fuse them into the sea where the Water God Tower is. The lives of the members of the demonic Flood Dragon clan who have transformed into the water of the sea will become one with the sea. No matter what attack lands in the sea, as long as the sea doesn't completely disappear, they will have a chance of survival unless the entire sea is destroyed. In the future, they will have a chance to use the Water God Tower to condense their bodies in the sea to make a comeback. The only flaw of this Water God Tower is that the members of the Demon Flood Dragon clan who have transformed into the water of the sea need to spread the water of the sea they have transformed into to the entire Demon Flood Dragon Sacred Sea as soon as possible. Only then can they maximize their chances of survival. There are two ways to resolve this situation. First, find the hidden Water God Tower. As long as the Water God Tower is destroyed, their mystic technique will naturally be cracked and they will reveal their true form. Second, they shouldn't have spread too far in such a short period of time. If your Majesty lets your Empire-level soldiers cast that super powerful magic on the Demon Flood Dragon Sacred Sea within a radius of 500,000 kilometers for an hour, you should be able to eliminate most of the Demon Flood Dragon clan. When they transform into the water of the sea, their strength is almost identical to the strength of normal water. They will die as long as most of the seawater is destroyed, Dickens said respectfully. Zhou Fight nodded. He glanced at the Demon Flood Dragon Sacred Sea. As expected, he discovered that the originally dark purple Demon Flood Dragon Sacred Sea had become even purer. It was almost purple-black. I understand, but there's no need to go through so much trouble. Zhou Fight smiled. Then, he disregarded Dickens's stunned gaze and flew down from the throne alone. He passed through the army of the Blazing Sun Kingdom and arrived 10,000 meters above the sea level of the Demon Flood Dragon Sacred Sea. All soldiers, generals, god spirits, and true god tiers, listen to my orders. Return to the galaxy for now, Zhou Fight said. Yes, Your Majesty. The soldiers and god spirits obeyed and returned to the galaxy without hesitation. Obeying orders. Even though they did not know why His Majesty asked them to do this, they did not need to consider these things. They just needed to carry out His Majesty's orders without hesitation. Soon, more than 600 billion soldiers, generals, and god spirits returned to the 1,000 galaxy in batches. In the blink of an eye, only Zhou Fight was left in the entire Demon Flood Dragon Sacred Sea. Karu and the other partisans of the Demon Flood Dragon clan who were hiding in the Demon Flood Dragon Sacred Sea could not help but feel very strange when they saw this scene. What was the common people's regal trying to do? However, even though they didn't understand, they didn't need to think to know that common people's regal was definitely doing something unfavorable to them. Karu's heart sank. Even though Zhou Fight was the only one left on the battlefield, he did not dare to act rashly. He also hurriedly spread the water of the sea that he had transformed into as he gave the same command to his other clansmen. As long as they completely integrated the seawater they had converted into the entire demon flood dragon sacred sea, the common people's regal would not be able to do anything to them. Even if they wanted to destroy the entire demon flood dragon sacred sea in exasperation, at most, they would follow the tributaries of the demon flood dragon sacred sea to the rivers, lakes, and seas of the other races' territories, or even an even larger sea. As the demon flood dragon race that had lived in the demon flood dragon sacred sea for countless years, their understanding of this aspect could not be any clearer. It was simply incomparably simple to leave the demon flood dragon sacred sea and head to other sea areas. The only thing they had to pay was the race foundation they had built in the demon flood dragon sacred sea for countless years. Even though giving up on this race's foundation would cause their race's development to decrease by tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of years, as long as they could protect themselves, they could have everything else in the future. Our demon flood dragon race will never be exterminated. In the future, when we develop to our peak again, or when your lord power falls to rock bottom, common people's regal. When the time comes, we'll settle the score. Karoo gritted his teeth. However, in the next second, he saw a scene that shocked him. This scene made his expression abruptly change. He also sensed extreme despair and fear. He can actually do such a thing. Does the Lord Supreme will really want to exterminate my demon flood dragon clan? A few minutes ago, above the ocean, Zhou Fight floated 10,000 meters in the heavens and gazed down at the demon flood dragon's sacred sea. Let me do some exercise. It's boring to stay up there and watch the battle all the time, Zhou Fight muttered to himself. He twisted his neck and stretched his body for a while. Then, he focused his eyes and activated the Lord's Law skill, King. The next second, his aura rapidly increased, and in the blink of an eye, it reached the level of a true God-tier intermediate grade. A terrifying pressure spread out in all directions with Zhou Fight as the center. In the blink of an eye, it spread to a radius of more than 100,000 kilometers. The world suddenly changed color. Dark clouds covered the sky and lightning flashed. The demon flood dragon sacred sea beneath his feet even formed a huge sea vortex with a diameter of 5,000 kilometers due to his pressure, causing the entire sea to become turbulent. Karoo and the other members of the demon flood dragon clan, who were wrapped up in it, could not help but feel terrified when they saw this scene. What was this terrifying lord of all races trying to do? The next second, they understood what Zhou Fight was going to do. Zhou Fight raised his right hand and tapped his glabella calmly. The great sun god's inheritance. Law skill. Sun descent. Then, a scorching white dot of light appeared between his brows and began to spread rapidly from there. 10 kilometers, 100 kilometers, 10,000 kilometers, 10,000 kilometers. The white dot expanded at an astonishing speed. In the blink of an eye, it turned into a scorching sun with a diameter of more than 10,000 kilometers. Moreover, a third of the sun's volume also fell straight into the demon flood dragon sacred sea, directly evaporating a vacuum area with a diameter of 100,000 kilometers. The surrounding seawater could not enter this vacuum area at all because as long as they approached slightly, they would instantly evaporate and disappear. Several trillion members of the demonic flood dragon clan who had turned into seawater wailed at this moment. Their bodies that had been evaporated by the sun directly revealed their charred bodies. Then they lost their breath and sank to the bottom of the sea. In the sun, Zhou's entire body was emitting a scorching white light. Even his eyes had turned snow-white, making him look like a cold and aloof sun god. He coldly observed these demon flood dragon race corpses that had recovered their bodies. Then, he looked at the surrounding seawater. Under the special state of using a Master God-tier law skill at this moment, even though he could only use this Master God-tier law skill at the power level of a true God-tier advanced grade, he seemed to be affected by this state. The members of the demonic flood dragon clan that he couldn't see at first actually had nowhere to hide under his scorching white divine eyes. All of them appeared in his vision. Found you. Zhou Fight's voice was as cold as the heavens. He casually took out a bottle of true God-tier intermediate-grade divine power restoration potion from his world ring. There were so many of these things in his king's treasure box that they almost piled up into a small mountain. They were all deity-level enemies from the lower god level to the true God-tier level. They had been dropped through the King of Loot's quality +1. Therefore, he didn't feel any heartache when using it. It was still a little difficult for him to borrow Tathagata's great Sun God Spirit's Master-tier law skill, Sun Descent, through the Law Skill King. With his true God-tier intermediate-grade body, he felt that the true God-tier intermediate-grade dermic powers in his body were almost depleted after casting it for a very short while. However, the effect was quite good, which was why he wanted to continue maintaining it. No, he had to strengthen it. Zoophyte had an idea. The white sun with a diameter of more than 10,000 kilometers suddenly emitted countless red-gold blazing sun divine fire. The originally incomparably huge sun doubled in size because of the scarlet gold blazing sun divine fire that suddenly manifested inside and outside. Boom! All the seawater within a radius of 100,000 kilometers had evaporated. The temperature within 1,000,000 kilometers, even the temperature at the edge, had increased to about 100 degrees Celsius. It was Blazing Sun's inheritance. Master God-level law skill. Blazing sun burning sky. Ah, my body. It's so hot. My body is melting. Spare us. Regal, spare us. We're willing to surrender. We're willing to surrender. Please retract your divine power. At this moment, with the enhancement of these two Master God-tier law skills, the great sun that Zoophyte had transformed into already possessed a frightening destructive power comparable to a true God-tier advanced grade God spirit. Countless members of the Demon Flood Dragon clan were incinerated to death by Zoophyte. Even the god spirits of the Demon Flood Dragon clan could not withstand the scorching heat brought about by this Master God-tier law skill. They took the initiative to reveal their original forms and begged Zoophyte for mercy. However, Zoophyte's expression was calm. He did not care about the surrender of these god spirits at all. Are you kidding me? You didn't surrender when I offered it to you, but now that you are forced into a corner, you want to surrender and even imagine that I would agree? It is impossible. The opportunity has already been given to you, but you didn't grasp it. I can't be blamed. He kept pouring divine power recovery potions of the true God-tier intermediate grade into his mouth, turning all these potions into the chaotic sacred power in his body as he maintained the output of the two Master God-tier law skills. If other true God-tier saw this, they would definitely scold him for being a wastrel for using such precious divine power recovery potions. One bottle of this potion could instantly restore all the divine power of an intermediate grade true God-tier expert. Only a true God-tier advanced grade, or even a Master God-tier potion master, could create such a potion. Furthermore, it would not be easily passed on to outsiders. Unlike Zoophyte, who drank as if he was drinking mineral water. However, Zoophyte really did not care. This divine power recovery potion, which was extremely precious to the outside world, was not much different from mineral water to him. In any case, he could not finish drinking it. After an unknown period of time, the entire surface of the Demon Flood Dragon Sacred Sea was already filled with the cadavers of the Demon Flood Dragon race. There were more than 100 trillion of them. In Zoophyte's perception, at this moment, Karoo was the only true God-tier of the Demon Flood Dragon race left. The other Demon Flood Dragon race members had already died under his Master God-tier law skill. It had to be said that the combination of the two Master God-tier law skills, Sun Descent and Blazing Sun Burning Heaven, was indeed an extremely good super large-scale attack. It could be said to be very suitable for exterminating a clan. At the same time, Karoo also saw the tragic state of the Demon Flood Dragon race. Our Demon Flood Dragon race was actually exterminated so easily by him alone. Even with the help of the Water God Tower? Karoo's face was pale. Ha ha, ha ha ha, ha 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 ha. Karoo suddenly threw his head back and giggled maniacally. Then he suddenly looked at Zoophyte. His eyes were filled with extreme hopelessness and madness as he looked at Zoophyte. I'll kill you. Die. Ah. Damn it. Karu turned into a dark purple stream of light and suddenly shot towards Zhou Fight. At this moment, Zhou Fight, who was in the center of the sun, was quietly watching the other party rush towards him. The distance between him and Zhou Fight was getting closer and closer. When he was 10,000 kilometers away from Zhou Fight, the armor and weapons on his body had already become hot. His skin was also flat and red, emitting blazing heat. When he was 5,000 kilometers away from Zhou Fight, he saw the high-tier deity-level divine artifact on Karu's body suddenly shatter. It was obvious that it could no longer withstand the extreme heat of the sun. When Karu was more than 3,000 kilometers away from Zhou Fight, all the divine artifacts on Karu's body ignited and fell from him into the demon flood dragon's sacred sea. Without the protection of the divine artifact, Karu's entire divine body was burned dry. Even his divine body and soul became withered. Then, he no longer breathed. Karu was dead. He died on the way to Zhou Fight. His corpse floated in the sun. His withered eyes still had a look of despair, hatred, and regret that was difficult to discover. Zhou Fight watched this spectacle calmly. With a thought, he directly extracted the other party's loots and put them into his king's treasure box. Then, he turned around and flew towards his galaxy leader. At the same time, his voice also sounded in the hearts of all the Blazing Sun Kingdom soldiers and god spirits. Only then did the Blazing Sun Kingdom soldiers and god spirits, who were still in shock, snap out of their daze. The demon flood dragon race has been destroyed. Clean up the battlefield and leave the original demon flood dragon race soldiers here. Then we'll return to our country. Also, bury these enemy country warriors, including Karu. Zhou Fight said calmly. Yes, your majesty. Long live his majesty. Countless soldiers and god spirits shouted, their voices filled with reverence and fanaticism for their majesty. Galaxy leader. In the captain's room, after Zhou Fight returned, he sat on the only main seat and checked the spoils of war of true god Karu and another true god tier who had died in battle. The demon flood dragon race originally had 4 true god tiers. Now Dickens had surrendered. Hielos had joined the Shadow Tribe. Only Karu and another true god tier of the demon flood dragon race had died. Therefore, he only had the spoils of war of these 2 true god tiers. However, he shook his head after looking at the spoils of war of the 2 true god tiers. How many true god tiers of the people of foreign races have I met? Why isn't there a single true god tier with a true god tier artifact? Everyone is using high-tier deity-level divine artifacts. Zhou Fight was helpless. He finally understood how rare true god tier divine artifacts were in the hands of true god tier. His subjects and him had already killed more than 10 true god tiers. He didn't even encounter a true god tier with a true god tier. Then he thought of his own true god tiers. All of them had a full set of true god tier divine artifacts on them. He couldn't help but sigh at the differences in the world. Most importantly, these guys didn't have any true god tier divine artifacts on them. So, he didn't even have the chance to drop a master divine artifact. He still did not know what a master divine artifact looked like. When I have a master god tier divine artifact, it will be time for me to fight Uriel and the others. I wonder if the true god tier intermediate grade chaotic sacred power I upgraded to the true god tier after using the Law Skill King can allow me to use the main divine artifact at a higher level? Zhou Fight could not help but think of this problem. The chaotic sacred power of the chaotic human race had the ability to ignore strength and realm and use high-quality artifacts. Even divine artifacts were no exception. However, the higher the level of the divine artifact, the more chaotic sacred power it would consume. He wondered if his true god-tier intermediate grade chaos sacred power was enough for him to use a master god divine artifact at a higher level. Perhaps when his strength increased and he used king, his strength would increase to the true god-tier advanced grade. He should be able to steadily use the master god-tier advanced elementary grade divine artifact. Then, he thought of something. As a master god-tier seed, Uriel should have 100% true God-tier divine artifacts on him. It's not to the extent that the Titans can't even take out such a small amount of resources. Thinking of this possibility, he increasingly wanted to start a final battle with the other party. However, he could only lay low for the time being. Speaking of which, it was not as if there were no rare spoils of war on these two demon flood dragon race true god tiers. For example, the master god tier hero inheritance and the book of the god spirit that fell from their bodies. There was also a dark purple pearl in Zoophyte's hand. There was a lifelike demon flood dragon circling inside. Treasure name: Holy Flood Dragon Pearl, Treasure Grade. Master God Tier Elementary Grade, Treasure Effect. The original pearl left behind by the founder of the Demon Flood Dragon race, Master God Tier Jiao Xian, after he died, contains the inheritance of Master God Tier Jiao Xian when he was alive. You can also detonate it and erupt with a terrifying power that can destroy a boundless universe. However, it can only be used once. After detonation, the Holy Flood Dragon Pearl will also be destroyed. Treasure Introduction. A Master God Tier Elementary Grade treasure left behind by the founder of the Demon Flood Dragon race, Master God Tier Jiao Xian. It can be used as the inheritance of a Master God and handed over to the Demon Flood Dragon race. It can also be used as a one-time use lethal weapon. Its destructive power is comparable to the self-destruction attack of a Master God Tier Elementary Grade. The Holy Flood Dragon Pearl can be used as a Master God Tier inheritance treasure. It can also be used as a one-time killing weapon. Good stuff. I have another Master God Tier offensive method in my hands. Zoophyte nodded slightly and kept it in his king's treasure box. He wasn't very excited. This was because he already had more than 20 similar treasures. They were all left behind by those true God Tier enemies after they died. Originally, these spoils of war could only unleash the full power attack of a true God Tier. After the quality of the King of Loots increased by 1, they all became treasures that could unleash the full power attack of a Master God Tier. It was also because he had these treasures on him. In addition, he had asked the Bodhi Supreme about the war. Only then did Zhou's main body dare to start a battle of extermination with these people of foreign races who had the power of an empire-level lord. They were not even afraid of a large clan like the Shadow Clan. In addition, before the ancient war on Earth, they would usually find the priests of the country to perform sacrifice divination to predict the fate of the war. Zhou was almost treating the Bodhi Supreme as his kingdom's high priest. He would definitely ask the enemy's strength through the Bodhi Supreme to prevent himself from kicking an iron plate without knowing anything before every battle. When Zhou asked yesterday if he could defeat the combined forces of the Shadow Race and the other 5 main people of foreign races under the premise that he had Master God Tier offensive methods, and when Bodhi Supreme replied that he could already launch an extermination war against them, he chose to issue a surrender letter to the enemies of the 5 people of foreign races that night. Then he would attack the Demon Flood Dragon race, a subsidiary race of the Shadow Race, today. As for the Shadow Race's reaction, it was within him and the soldiers' expectations. Zoophyte and the others had already prepared various countermeasures for the different reactions of the Shadow Tribe. Therefore, when he saw that the Shadow Tribe had not come and was planning to join forces with the other people of foreign races, he did not panic. Everything was as expected. Then let's deal with whatever comes our way. However, these methods were only used to deal with these people of foreign races. Facing Uriel and his people of Foreign Tribe Alliance army, he still didn't have the confidence to win. Only when he had a sovereign divine relic in his hands would he have the confidence to fight Uriel and the others. Half an hour later, the battlefield was cleaned up. Then, the soldiers spent another 2 hours sorting out the reserve resources of the Demon Flood Dragon race. After doing all of this, Zoophyte sent people to announce the Blazing Sun Kingdom's policy towards the new subjects in the Demon Flood Dragon Sacred Sea. They appeased the people of the Demon Flood Dragon race and got the Array Master to open the Demon Flood Dragon Sacred Sea and the Blazing Sun Kingdom's spatial teleportation array. Only then did they leave in peace and return to the Blazing Sun Kingdom. The Blazing Sun Kingdom in the Divine Kingdom world. Myriad Ingot Palace in the Reincarnation Sacred Palace. Zhou was currently roaming the world in the Time World. Furthermore, he had been roaming for more than 10 years. He was trying to comprehend the Lord's laws from this chaotic war. It would be best if he could comprehend his third Lord law skill. There was already some progress. If he was given another 2 to 3 days in the real world, he should be able to comprehend it in 70 to 80 years in the time world. At this moment, he sensed something and opened his eyes. At the same time, Aaliyah's voice came from outside the temple. "Your Majesty, Legion Commander Bai Yun has returned. Currently, she is requesting an audience with the worshipped God Spirit, Lord Yanzhe, outside the hall. Let him in." Zhou was a little surprised when he heard that, but he still let them in. At the same time, he also recalled who the worshipped God Spirit Yanzhe was. Yanzhe. The original members of the Fire Cry race were top-notch God Spirits who were high-tier deity-level advanced grades. The deity-level ancestors of the Fire Cry race recognized them as future true God-tier seeds and took them in as disciples when they were in the Fire Cry race. Later on, after True God Shanghua led the Fire Cry human race to join the Blazing Sun Kingdom, this deity-level seed was very sensible and didn't resist. He obediently joined the Blazing Sun Kingdom and became one of Zhou's worshipped God spirits. Furthermore, because the other party had the potential to advance to true God tier, after joining the Blazing Sun Kingdom, there was no longer any problem with his loyalty. Zhang Yuanqi did not doubt him when he used people. With a wave of his hand, he gave the other party a top-notch book of the God Spirit and Hero Inheritance Secret Manual that matched the other party's deity-level advance grade in advance. It was this blessing, coupled with the Lord Talent, Peaceful Times, Tribe Divine Artifact, Fire Cry Origin Core, and various other treasures that increased loyalty, that allowed the other party's loyalty to the Blazing Sun Kingdom and Zhou to directly rise to the level of fanatic believers. They were considered to be on the same side even if the other party had only joined the Blazing Sun Kingdom for a day or two. He didn't have time to think about it as Bai Yun and Yanzhe had already entered the hall. "Your subject, Bai Yun/Yanzhe, greets your Majesty," the two of them said respectfully and led the way. "MHM. Thank you for your hard work." Zhou nodded slightly. "Your Majesty, you're being too serious. We serve the country. This is our honor. There's no need to say that it's hard work." Zhou's words made the two gods sweat profusely. Even though the Forbidden Mage army had contributed a lot today, the decisive factor in the war was naturally Zhou. If not for Zhou, they might not have been able to find where the Demon Flood Dragon race was hiding. Even if they finally guessed that the Demon Flood Dragon race was hiding in the seawater of the Demon Flood Dragon Sacred Sea and ordered the Forbidden Spell Mages to bombard it with forbidden spells, it would not be resolved in a short period of time. At that time, it would be a waste of time and resources. Even if they could win in the end, it would not be a clean victory. "Show me the results of your battle." Zhou nodded with a smile and did not say anything else. "Yes, Your Majesty. This is the summary of the war list of today's war by Lady Wanya." After Bai Yun finished speaking, she projected the list of battles in front of Zhou through her personal terminal as usual. Zhou took a closer look. There was naturally no need to mention hunting the target of the Eye of the Heaven's anger. On the other hand, in the process of hunting down the Eye of the Heaven's anger's target, they had conveniently killed more than 1,050,000,000 fog monsters that protected the Eye of the Heaven's anger's target. In the afternoon, he went to the Demon Flood Dragon race's Demon Flood Dragon Sacred Sea and eliminated more than 300 trillion Demon Flood Dragon race members, more than 3 billion Demon Flood Dragon race soldiers, 256 ordinary god spirits of the Demon Flood Dragon race, and 2 true god tiers of the Demon Flood Dragon race, including Karu. The war supplies left behind by these enemies, the racial reserves of the Demon Flood Dragon race, and their spoils of war were enhanced by the titles of the King of Loots and the Strongest Lord. They obtained a total of more than 1.28 billion legendary tier mist cores, more than 26.565 billion epic tier mist cores, more than 58.096 billion extraordinary tier mist cores, 209.315 billion diamond tier mist cores, 513.012 billion white platinum tier mist cores, 750.15 billion yellow gold tier mist cores, 3.1 trillion white silver tier mist cores, 5.8 trillion green bronze tier mist cores, 20.76 trillion black iron tier mist cores, There were more than 400 billion skill books and 500 billion pieces of equipment. The basic materials were about 150 trillion units. Basic elemental gem resources, 20 billion 32 million units. More than 890 million units of thunder element gems. 850 billion units of life elemental gems. 790 million units of death elemental gems. More than 5 million units of time elemental gems. More than 4 million units of space elemental gems. 26 billion 77 million origin crystals. 312 million 8,630 green bronze tier Lord Talent crystal fragments. 1 legendary tier Lord Talent origin divine crystals. 5 legendary tier Lord Talent crystal fragments. 101,500 Holy Spirit tier Faith divine crystals. More than 850 million units of divine crystals from low tier to high tier deity level. 160 true God tier elementary grade divine crystals. More than 3 million low tier to high tier deity level divine artifacts. 36 true God tier divine artifacts. There was also a total of about 3 million divine spark fragments, God tier medicinal herbs, God tier ingredients, God tier ores, God tier blueprints, and other treasures. In addition to these normal gains, when the soldiers of the Blazing Sun Kingdom were sorting out the race reserve resources of the Demon Flood Dragon race, they also discovered such things as the building blueprint of the Water Mirror Palace, the building blueprint of the Water God Tower, the technological blueprint of the Great Maelstrom Energy Gathering Device, the Holy Flood Dragon Trial Tower, the battle machinery, the blueprint of the Demon Flood Dragon Cannon, the high-tier advanced grade battle formation, the spirit of the Holy Flood Dragon, the legendary level Sea-Ship Blueprint, the Flood Dragon Warship, the low-tier deity level Advanced Grade Sea-Ship Blueprint, the Flying Flood Dragon Divine Warship, the Holy Flood Dragon Ram, and other spoils of war that were unique to the Demon Flood Dragon race. Zhou couldn't help but click his tongue in wonder after reading this part of the summary. In fact, it was because Zhou Fight had used the 10,000 Spirit Saint on his behalf today. Half of the demonic Flood Dragon clan and soldiers had joined his camp. Therefore, the number of life forms of the demonic Flood Dragon clan that they had eliminated today was actually not many. In fact, it was only about a quarter of what they had wiped out yesterday. However, just this many Demon Flood Dragon race soldiers had provided him with more mist core, skill books, equipment, and other resources than the Battle of the Moon Demons. Needless to say, the reason for this was naturally that the Demon Flood Dragon race was far stronger than the Moon Demon race. Therefore, their race had much more resources than the Moon Demon race, so they provided so many mist cores. The harvest of the life elemental gems and death elemental gems also made him very satisfied. He originally had about 500 million life elemental gems and death elemental gems. Now, with these 1.64 billion life elemental gems and death elemental gems, he only had about 1.86 billion life elemental gems and death elemental gems left. It was enough to satisfy all the requirements for the territory to advance to the legendary level. As for the gains of more than 101,500 Holy Spirit tier Faith divine crystals, Zhou's eyes lit up. Including this batch of Holy Spirit tier Faith divine crystals, I already have more than 800,000 Holy Spirit tier Faith divine crystals. We can revive the Buddha Lord now, Zhou muttered to himself. The Buddha Lord was a true God-tier intermediate grade God spirit. According to Carol Moaley, resurrecting such an expert required 500,000 Holy Spirit tier Faith divine crystals, 500 true God-tier intermediate grade divine crystals, and a true God-tier intrinsic item. Now that all three were gathered, he could naturally be revived. Moreover, he still had more than 300,000 Holy Spirit tier Faith divine crystals left. However, even so, Zhou was still a little speechless. The price of resurrecting a true God tier was too high. True God tier intermediate grade divine crystals were nothing. Most importantly, that was a total of 500,000 Holy Spirit tier Faith divine crystals. Normally speaking, this was a rare resource that could only be collected after a total of 500,000 Holy Spirit tier believers died. However, it could only revive one true God tier. Zhou shook his head. It was unknown who had enjoyed such treatment since the appearance of the Great Resurrection spell. In addition, Zhou was very satisfied with the various spoils of war from the demon flood dragon race. This was because most of these loots were related to the development of the sea. Regardless of whether it was the supreme continent or the myriad worlds, majority of them had oceans. At the quite least, there were rivers as well as lakes. In addition, what the Blazing Sun Kingdom lacked the majority was the legacy of civilization in these aspects. Therefore, as long as the loot was completely absorbed, it would definitely make up for the shortcomings of the Blazing Sun Kingdom's development in the future. And what surprised he the most was of course the legendary tier Lord Talent Origin Divine Crystals. It came from the ruler of the Holy Flood Dragon Empire. It was stated that these ruler of the empire was solely a high-tier deity-level god spirit of the demon flood dragon race. However, he was a direct descendant of the demon flood dragon race's royal family. In addition, he had the epic tier Lord Talent. Furthermore, he had the Lord Talent that was extremely suitable for the development of the demon flood dragon race's civilization. Therefore, he was elected as the ruler of these empire. And after he was killed, with the enhancement of the King of Loots, his epic tier Lord Talent became a legendary tier Lord Talent Origin Divine Crystals.